Hello and welcome to Starsector, a new series that I'm going to be doing, dipping into this in development game. It's currently at version 0.7.1a. Starsector is an open world, single player, space combat / role playing, exploration / economic type game, where you take the role of a space captain or fleet commander really later in the game, basically just trying to seek fortune and glory. I've already done the tutorials and had a little bit of a play around in the game itself, but I'm still very much a novice, so if I say anything incorrect or if anyone has any tips or suggestions about how to improve my playstyle, please do feel free to comment down below. The more I learn, the better this will be for everyone. What we're going to do is we'll do a few episodes just getting to grips with the basics of how the game works, and then after that point I will probably restart, but looking at some of the mods available, because despite still being very much in development, this game has a huge modding scene, and it seems like there's some really good stuff out there, so I'm quite looking forward to getting a handle on some of that. Anyway, for now, let's kick off a new game and create our new commander. So, first of all, we have to pick a name. I'm just going to name myself Matrix. No surprises there. And a face. There's quite a few to pick from. First time I fired this up, I didn't even notice this was a scroll bar, and I thought it was just limited to this selection, but there's actually quite a few more down here. I like the business suit guy here. He looks very professional. Iron mode is how the game is intended to be played, but as it's still in development, I'm not going to be ticking that, but I will be playing as if Iron Man mode type situation is enabled, which is to say if I die I'm going to restart and assume that I was blown up, unless I'm part of a larger fleet and there's a chance that I could have escape podded over. All that means is basically if I die before I've got any other ships to make a getaway in, I'll be restarting. So after you pick your name and your face, you get to choose what sort of character you are. An honest trader starts with a ship with a larger cargo hold but less combat capability. Smuggler starts with a ship with a shielded cargo hold, making it less likely you'll have illegal goods detected by port authorities and patrol scans and such from people in the area. Or a bounty hunter, which is a slightly more combat capable vessel. I usually go for bounty hunter. I'm not very good at combat, but the ship you start with seems pretty strong. It's a Wolf class frigate, and every ship has a special ability, and the Wolf class frigates one is called a phase skimmer, which gives it a short range teleport, which has gotten me out of a few problematic scenarios. So after you've chosen what character type you were to start with, which basically just determines the starting ship you have another set of questions, which vary depending on which scenario you are in. High-end weaponry is a bigger laser gun for the front of your ship. Sizable bounty is just some money, and some experienced crew is just some more advanced crew. I like taking them. Gives me a little bit of an edge to start with. And we'll go for normal mode, which is basically how the game is intended to be played. We'll go with some manual assignment of skill points. If you do it automatic, what it does is it just puts 2 into combat and throws them in weapon damage and helmsmanship, I believe. But I quite like the stabilised shield hull mod there, which it means you take less flux, which I'll go into later, when you take damage on your shields. The amount of skill points you put into each of these skills is capped to your aptitude level. So if I put 1 point in technology, I can't go beyond 1 point in applied physics here. And 1 point into combat will mean that I am capped to 1 point in each of these things which I'm picking. So I'm going to go for helmsmanship because speed and acceleration is invaluable. If you can't catch up to or run away from enemy ships in combat, then you may as well not be in the fight in the first place. If you can't get away, you're just going to die, and if you can't catch them, then you can't be basically a bounty hunter, which is kind of how we're probably going to be trying to earn our initial amount of money. Weapon damage is always beneficial, and I think I'm going to take power grid modulation just to try and help the inner workings of my ship. I'll review all of the available skills as we go on, but for now this is a pretty solid basic start. So let's hit the start game. What it does is everything starts from the same point, December the 1st, C205, but then it runs forwards a couple of months to simulate some economy changes and things like that. So you do have some slight variances in what's available in the market areas and ships in the sector, but it's all pretty similar to start with. So you start off in what's basically a great big space screen. That's us in our little Wolf class frigate. If I pop down to fleet, this is us, the ISS Island V. That's not great, I might rename that later. If we go to refit, we're not actually going to be refitting it in space, this is just to show you guys what the loadout is. We have a pulse laser up front, which does energy damage. Energy damage is pretty even against all types of defense. The three main things that you can impact are shields, armor, and hull. Energy is pretty neutral against all of them. High explosive is great against it's terrible against shields and pretty good against everything else, and the point defense lasers we have are energy damage again. Kinetic is another one. Kinetic is great against shields. I don't have anything that does kinetic damage at the moment, and the other one I can't remember is possibly fragmentation. Might be fragmentation. Anyway, it's very good against just, well, everything else really. So yes, this is our basic setup. Got a laser up front, a couple of point defences around the edge. Point defence things will auto track fighters and missiles around us. Got some ship stats up here. Our top speed, we have some armour, rather more hull, good flux capacity, which is kind of used by our shields. We have some blast doors which we'll probably get rid of. Actually, let's go and refit our ship immediately. So nearby we've got Jangala Station and the Jangala Jungle World. This orange text is because the areas are owned by a faction called the Hegemony. I'm not a big fan of the Hegemony. They seem to hate, well, pretty much everyone. They're like super nanny state as far as I can tell. They don't like you flying around with your transponder off. They like knowing who everyone is and what everyone is doing, which means that a lot of things which make money are very hard to do around Hegemony area, because you get seen and identified if you're trying to be a privateer and kill people for their cargo, which admittedly is not a great thing to do. But also if you're just trying to do some minor smuggling, then the best way to do that is to run around with your transponder off, and if they see you with your transponder off, they'll come and demand a cargo scan and steal all your stuff. So these are all of the factions in the vanilla game. Space Weirdos, Extreme Space Weirdos. I've never met the Sindarin Diktat. They sound alright. Yeah. Military dictatorship, okay, that's not great, but they only really hate the Extreme Space Weirdos and the pirates. Tritachyon seem to be the most sensible / neutral people. They really hate the hegemony, but they don't care about pretty much anyone else. I mean, they hate like the religious space guys and the extreme space weirdos and pirates. But if you're just independent and you're just like doing your own stuff, they can care less. Really, they've got nothing's illegal. They are kind of like the ultimate live and let live as far as they're concerned. Independent, I'm not really sure if this is actually a faction or if this is just yeah, it says here kind of like not a unified faction as such, but yeah, I suppose it's just like the rumour mill for everyone else. And pirates, you can join the pirates, just basically kill everyone else and pirates will start to like you. Do lots of smuggling in pirate ports, people will like you. Yeah. Right, so I was about to go to Jangala and have a look, see if there's anything better we can start our ship equipment with. Down here we have a few important things to cover. First of all, this is the ship's transponder. By default it starts on because you start in hegemony space and they hate people running the transponder off. It's against the law for them. You can toggle it off by clicking on this icon or pressing the number 1, but you have to do it twice. The first of which asks you to confirm that you actually want to do it, and the second which will enact it. It's pretty sensible that it takes 2 clicks to do so, because if you accidentally switch it off in an area of space where it's illegal, they will notice you disappear from their radar and come off and investigate. Here we have the center range. This is how far we can see other people, and this is how far they can see us. Because our transponder is on, our detection range is much higher than if it was off. But this is, again, in this area of space, a good thing. People are broadcasting their location and saying who and what they are, and as a result we'll be able to see all of the hegemony ships and fleet in the area around at a larger range. So if we were to switch off our transponder, our visibility would decrease down to, well, about 1,000 less. It's probably actually going to be close to the range that we can see other people, because most of the other ships in the area will be broadcasting their position. We should be able to see them further away than they'll be able to see us. Next on the bar we have Go Dark, which it reduces how far we can be seen even further by an extra 50%, but slows us down. It's really useful for trying to sneak through patrols areas, but if you get seen, it's much harder to get away afterwards. Great for smuggling. Also quite good if you've just tried to flee someone, then take a sharp turn and hit Go Dark. They might continue off into the distance, whereas you've like just tried to sneak away off down the side. It can work. We'll probably at some point in the future have to do some evasive maneuvers, so we'll hit that at some point. Next up we have the active sensor burst. This is quite useful if you're trying to find a specific ship in the area, something that you've been hunting and it's gotten away from you. It makes you very, very visible. 5,000 units is, I think, the maximum which you can be detected by at anyway, and it's got quite a cooldown, so it's really just a I've got no idea. I need a general idea of which direction to head in, but if you have an active sensor burst coming your direction, you're probably going to get out of there as quickly as possible. And finally, emergency burn. Makes you go faster, makes you more visible, and yeah, it uses fuel. You don't use fuel when you're in regular space unless you're doing an emergency burn, only when you enter hyperspace, which is the way you get between star systems. But we'll come to that later. Anyway, like I said, we're going to Jangala. Okay. Whenever you approach a station, you get some blurb here, which relates to how you've approached the station. If you have your transponder off, if it's on, if you've just been engaged in combat recently and have it off, it's again different. This is pretty standard. Our ship transmits identification code via our transponder and we're greeted with docking clearance. Pretty much everywhere will let you dock in some way, both with and without your transponder on, but what you can actually do at a station changes based on how you've approached the station. If you have your transponder off, you can pretty much only interact with the black market in an area. If you have your transponder on, you can still often interact with the black market, but you are already pre-identified, so the penalties and reputation between factions is going to be faster and more severe. Right. Yes, that's fine. All that's saying is that the options we have available here in this pop-up list will be both everything that's available in the market and also everything that is in our cargo hold already. So we currently have a pulse laser, and we have the option for phase lance. I've never seen a phase lance before. Range-wise, it's the same as the pulse laser, 600. You can see in the middle on the right there. It does slightly less DPS, but it does some EMP damage. EMP damage is special damage and disabled components that it hits, which is very interesting. I don't like the fact that it's described as a short duration beam. Still, what we can do is we can, the whole refit screen has a simulation built into it. So what we could do is equip it, run a simulation, and if we don't want what's happened, like we dislike the way it works, we can hit undo and get back to where we were. First of all though, I was going to get rid of these blast doors because they're pretty useless to me. Blast doors increase the hull integrity by a little and reduce the crew casualties by half. On some ships, that's really useful. Mine has a shield system though, so I would much rather have some stabilized shields in place. And also I quite like these hardened subsystems. All ships in combat slowly degrade over time, over the length of an engagement, and hardened subsystems basically makes that time before it starts to degrade longer. It's very useful. The only downside is you've got to find space for it out of your other options. So if I do that, reduce the amount of capacitors and vents, it fixes up my it decreases my flux capacity and dissipation a little, and I can get the hardened subsystems on. Missile wise, they've got some Annihilator rocket launchers as opposed to the Harpoon MRMs that I have equipped. point defense wise, they have nothing available. If I just jump into a simulation, just without anything, actually, cancel. This is my ship normally. It spins around. It's not too fast and everything, but with a beginner commander, there's not a huge amount to go on. That's my pulse laser up the front. My point defense lasers, which have different fire arcs each. There we go, you can get all three going forwards. And the harpoon missile launchers. These do track enemies, but you need to have actually targeted an enemy, and in this simulation I don't have any equipped. So let's end that simulation. I want to see how the phase lance compares up front. Let's just jump back into run simulation. Okay, let's see how different it is. Oh, I see. In the bottom middle of my screen, slightly to the left of the FPS counter, you can see a kind of like an energy bar / duration bar. Well, that's quite a delay between being able to shoot with this. Let's see how it fares on this rock. I'm unconvinced. I would have to be very careful planning my engagements with that. Whereas I tend to like to kite things gradually. Let's undo that. Yes. Yeah, I like to kite things and retreat quite a lot, actually. Using the starting pulse laser to just sit at the fringe of my range and their range. Okay. Oh yes, if I go back into the refit screen, sorry. Every time you adjust your weapons, it asks you to double check your weapon groups. I didn't actually change anything there, so there was no point in altering them. This is all pretty good to start with. The point defense is set to auto fire. The missiles are not. Yeah, the missiles, as I said, are mostly useful against ships with down shields, so we will hopefully be trying them at some point when we get into combat. At each docking station there's a comm directory. They're usually mercenary officers which you can hire to captain other ships in your fleet if you bought any. We don't yet, so we're going to ignore these guys. And there'll be like trading missions and bounty missions available to take. Unfortunately, both of these. This is really far away. This is where we are in Corvus, the centre of the universe, and that wants us to go down to Samara, which would need to go through hyperspace. 20 days, that's okay. That is a huge amount of money. 12 units we could probably fit in our cargo hold, but we'd have to smuggle them out of hegemony space, and that's not something I'm comfortable doing right at the start of the game. The only other trading missions that are available are quantities that we cannot fit in our ship. If I just jump back out of this, our cargo capacity is really not huge. Where is it actually? Of course, sorry, it is available here. Right. There we go. 20 out of 50. So we could fit the harvested organs, which there are enough of in the black market, but we can't afford the 12 of them that we would need with our starting 2,000 credits. So we can't even do that. Okay. These stats in the bottom corner are currently just for my one ship, but if we had more ships, this is actually the fleet as a whole's stats. So this will be the combined cargo hold, the combined fuel of everyone, and so on and so forth. Okay, so to start off with, we need to make a little bit of money. There's usually not much available purchase-wise. Oh, that would be very nice if we could afford that. Lashes are quite good. I've had my arse handed to me a few times by lashes. Sadly not available. Well, they're available but not affordable is what I mean. Okay, so let's have a look at the Intel and see what options we have. The Intel screen is kind of the news that's going on in the area. This is everything that was just simulated since the start of the game. We've got a few bounties posted by the hegemony on specific people, and if you click on each one you can find out where they are. Or a better view for that is to jump to the map tab and then expand the bounties, and you can see a little face for each of them. Morgan Dickerson, Vor Dickerson, I wonder if they're related, and August Barber. They're specific pirates who have bounties offered on them, but they're all quite a way away. Bounty in the Corvus system is perhaps what we should be going after to start with, which is for any and all fleets hostile to the hegemony here. 45 days it lasts, and it started on... When did it start on? Just now? Yes, I believe so. Okay, so it's going to last for the next 45 days. Most bounties aren't this much. Apparently this is hard-coded in the game to give you a good start to get some money if you wanted to be a bounty hunter. So I think we're going to try and take advantage of that. And so this is the map of Corvus. This is where we are at the moment, Jangala. You can see roughly the area that we can see bordered by these corners in blue. The colours on the map refer to who owns which area. So Somnus is Tritachian, Corvus Gate unowned, Moors Tritachian. Seems a bit surprising. Perhaps light blue is unowned actually. I could be getting the blues mixed up. Actually Corvus and Barad look like a lighter blue than Somnus. Possibly. Asharu Independence, Jangala Hegemony, Jangala Relay Hegemony, and the Barad A and B are both pirates. So let's wander up into pirate area and see if we can get ourselves a little fight. This is a fleet here just adjacent to us actually with its transponder off, and this is how we would appear if we were to switch off our transponder. So we're going to get away from the hegemony fleet, and then we're going to switch off our transponder to make it easier for us to sneak up on other people, really. There's Barad B. There's a fleet there. It is quite a large fleet. What we want is either something small or something that the hegemony are after already. Actually, let's go and try and help out the hegemony. Oh, damn it, just missed it. Quite a good way to get a head start is to try and engage in combat with someone hostile to you and another fleet in the area that's within about half a screen away. Actually, that's like a quarter of a screen. If they're close enough to you, they can come and assist you in battle. And really, the more ships you've got on your side, the better. Anyway, the pirate fleet is trying to flee, probably because the hegemony is in the area. It knows who we are because our transponder's on, but that's fine. Having our transponder on means that the hegemony, who starts off neutral to us, are willing to assist us. So let's pursue them. Okay, at the start of the combat screen it asks you which ships in your fleet you wish to deploy. we may as well deploy our only ship. Otherwise, there's pretty much no point. And these are the two pirate forces. To start off with, you have a big command overview, which you can pull back up with the tab screen. If you have more ships, then you can start ordering fleet engagements and things. But we don't have any of that. So at the moment, what do we have here? We've got a Wolf D, which is similar to our own, but D class is kind of it's damaged. It's the bottom of the barrel as far as the ship class goes, and a heavy fighter wing. Let's start off heading after this guy. See my point defense lasers going after the missiles that he's got there. And there's our allies coming in from the side. Alright, I've just paused it so that I can show you a couple of things. Here we've got a flux level for a ship and a flux level for my ship. As you take shield damage impact from weapons fire and such, it builds up something called hard flux, which is this second line here on the bar. When you discharge your weapons, you build up soft flux, which is this section here to the right of my second line. Soft flux will dissipate itself over time. Hard flux only dissipates itself when you put your shields down, and if you take shield damage to the point that your flux bar completely fills up, your ship overloads, your shields go down, your engines go down, your weapons go down. Basically, it's very bad. You end up dead in the water. So a lot of engagements will involve basically trying to overload enemy shields, or indeed circle around and try and get behind them. Most shields have just a finite arc. Overload them, and then you can actually start wailing on the armor and hull. That's the phase skimmer, which I've got one of as well. Yes. Uh-oh. That was a bit bad of me. Got a little bit overexcited there. And you can see here in the bottom right of this targeting thing, we've got details on the armor of the areas on the ship. So at the front it is completely busted up at the moment, and he's started to take hull damage. Middle's taken quite a few hits, and the rear is alright at the moment. Equally, myself, because I ballsed up a little and very nearly let myself get overloaded, so I had to drop my own shields. I've taken some front hull damage. It's not too much of a problem at the moment. There is another way you can get rid of flux, and that's by active venting. I'll probably show that off in a second. I just want to see if I can wail on this guy a bit more. Fire off a missile at his arse. That'll do a huge amount of hull damage. Okay, this swirly stuff here, that's me active venting. And while active venting, you pretty much can't do anything. It's almost like being overloaded, but it's far less dangerous. Up in the corner, I don't know if you could see very quickly there, it said the Gladius wing, which was the other pirates, had no combat capable craft left in them anymore. And so we won the combat because we destroyed the other one. When you're in combat with another group, your spoils of war are unfortunately split with them, but based on your contributions to the fight, we virtually took that guy out by ourselves. Okay, we had some missile assistance, but a lot of it was us. So we get some credits from the CPU cores, and we also get to loot what's left. So we take some supplies, some fuel, this heavy machinery, and some metals. None of this is particularly valuable, but it all helps. And after this, well, first of all, we get some experience. Pretty much everything in the game you do grants you experience. Trading gives you experience, combat gives you experience, and so on and so forth. But also, in a moment, the hegemony guys will transmit details of the combat back to their HQ, and we should get a bounty wired for the frigate that we just took out. After combats, your ships have slightly lower combat readiness. It decreases a little each time you enter combat. All this notification is telling us is that we are currently consuming extra supplies in an attempt to recoup our combat readiness. It's just like restocking ammo, polishing guns, that sort of stuff, fixing bits in the hull. We did take a little bit of hull damage. That'll take 3 in-game days to fix. An in-game day is about 10 seconds, I think. Not certain on that. There we go, and that's the bounty payment coming through from Jangala. And our relationship with the hegemony has increased a little. There's a rather large fleet here going after the hegemony patrol, and another one trying to intercept. Yeah, before we finish this episode, I will see if I can get everyone here involved in a very large fight. That could be interesting. Okay, so we've got a big old hegemony patrol fighting the big old pirate attack fleet. Hegemony have said we can join if we want to, and yeah, sure, why not? Let's try and help. Because we're joining a fight in progress, everything is already very much underway. We're going to deploy ourselves. We'll come in from the bottom here. You do actually have options to come in from the left or right if you want, but I think the bottom will get us into the fight as quickly as possible. And let's go. Right, who do we want to take out, or at least start to head for? We've got a raider shuttle. That's possible. We'll target that to start with. There's a lasher. They've got lots of ballistic weapons. I tend to stay away from those. Another lasher. Another shuttle. That is big. We're going to stay away from that. Something you need to learn very quickly in this game is be extra cautious of larger ships than you. They really can bring the hurt. That's got 5,000 hull. I've got 1,200. Yes. Which is also why I'm going to go pick on these shuttles, or at least try to. If there's any of them left by the time we get there. Oops, a bit of friendly fire there, sorry. No, that did not last long enough for me to reach. That's the bigger ship that I don't really want to take part in, but if I can throw some missiles, might be able to get something. Is there anything left? Yes, there are some pirate ships fleeing. try and advance a little. Use my phase skimmer. I mentioned the phase skimmer before. This is the recharge bar for it here. It can store up to 3 uses at a time. And yeah, you've seen that little short range teleport that I've been doing. I'll do it again in a second. There we go. It's not a lot, but it does help sometimes. Fire off some of my missiles. Missiles have limited ammo, which is a bit of a shame. Excellent. I think we did a lot of that. Is anyone else around? I don't think so. No, there is not. Okay, so the pirates escaped, but we still managed to participate in the combat, so we get to loot through the salvage a little bit. And we will get some more bounty from that. Let's plot a route back to Jangala for the end here. All that message was saying is because we've been in a few combats, our combat readiness is reduced. We should probably take a little while before we engage in combat again. Rest, recuperate, and so on. Use some supplies. Jangala Station. Where we can sell the bits that we picked up even. But for now, I'm going to call this episode here. We'll go into trading next time, I think. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.